Today, we'll be going over 5 of the main historical sites in Rome: the Colosseum, Palatine Hill, the Roman Forum, the Pantheon, and Circus Maximus.
3, 2, 1, drop it.
I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor. It's a game which needs no introduction. It's Raid Shadow Legends. You want to be the hero of your own fantasy? You want to meet Dark Elves, the Sacred Order?
Colosseum. The construction of the Colosseum began under the rule of Emperor Vespasian in 72 AD and was completed in 80 AD under the rule of Emperor Titus. Further modifications to the Colosseum were made during the reign of Domitian. The 3 emperors that sponsored the project of building the Colosseum were known as the Flavian dynasty. The amphitheater was later called Flavian Amphitheater in name of these 3 emperors. The amphitheater could hold around 50,000 to 80,000 people at different times of history, and the average amount of spectators would be 65,000. The building ceased to be used for entertainment in the early medieval era, and it was later used for housing, workshops, and Christian shrines. The Colosseum was used to entertain the people of Rome by holding gladiatorial contests and public spectacles such as mock sea battles, animal hunts, executions, reenactments of famous battles, and dramas based on Roman mythology. The Colosseum was an oval amphitheater, and it was built out of Taurine limestone and brick-faced concrete. Palatine Hill. Palantium was an ancient city on the Tiber founded by the Greeks 60 years before the Trojan War. This city is said to have merged into Rome at its origins. Palatine Hill was used by Romulus as the founding hill of Rome. On these hills, the kings and the rich lived until the imperial era. During that era, the emperors, starting with Augustus, created their residence and temples to honor the gods. Nero's fire of Rome destroyed some temples and the emperor's palace. Therefore, it was rebuilt by Domitian. The hill was owned by the Farnese family and their gardens and villas, and they can still be seen. Villa Mattei was one of these villas, but it was destroyed to allow archaeological excavations. Palatine's Hill's purpose was to separate the citizens from the emperors and the rich. It demonstrates Rome's power through architecture. And Palatine Hill was the centermost hill of the 7 hills of Rome, and it was enclosed in 69 acres of land, temples and palaces made of wood, then marble and stone.
The Roman Forum. The Roman Forum started in around 700 BC, where the second king of Rome decided to build his house and his temple. The Roman then expanded this area, building 2 other temples: the Temple of Saturn in 497 BC and the Temple of Castor, built in 484 BC. Around 300 years later, in 184 BC, basilicas, which were large public buildings, started being built, which increased the popularity of the square. From 63 BC, senators also started doing meetings in these buildings, which even further increased its popularity. And even in imperial times, there were continuously buildings being built all the way up to 312 AD, in which the last major building was built, the Basilica of Maxentius. The Forum continued to be a very important place until the Roman Empire fell. The purpose of the Roman Forum changed a lot over time. It began as a simple, good place for kings to build their houses and temples, and developed into a huge square with many temples and basilicas. The size of a square during the imperial time was around 130 by 50 meters.
The Pantheon was initially commissioned by Marcus Agrippa during Augustus's reign. However, Agrippa's version burned down, and then it was rebuilt by Hadrian in 113 AD. The only description from an eyewitness is in Pliny's writings, and the conversion to church saved it from destruction in the 7th century. All of the precious metals and statues that were inside were removed to be used elsewhere during the medieval period. The purpose of the Pantheon was to celebrate all of the gods of Rome, but then in the 7th century it was used as a Catholic church. Then in the Renaissance it was converted into a place where you would bury famous people like Raphael and Carracci. And the Pantheon is still the biggest unsupported concrete dome with a 43 meter diameter and height. And the large bronze doors at the entrance are still the original Roman ones. This means that they almost have 2000 years. The Circus Maximus was the first and largest stadium in Rome. It was built in the 6th century BCE, and it was commissioned by Tarquinius Priscus. During the regal era, it was mostly farmland with a track, and there were little seats for the public. Then, in the Republican era, permanent seats were created out of wood, and chariot races started. Unfortunately, there was a great fire that destroyed all of the wood structures. In fact, in the imperial era, permanent stone structures were created that couldn't burn. And also the Circus Maximus became a symbol of power for the Roman emperors. However, around 500 AD it fell out of favor because of Christianity. The main purpose was to mass and entertain the Roman public. In fact, it could accommodate up to 150,000 people. Also, it hosted ludi, that were public games connected to Rome and its beliefs. For example, there were beast hunts, runs, gladiator fights, and plays. The Circus Maximus measures 621 meters in length and 118 in width.